Throughout the pandemic, there has been a lot of damage done. And here on this show, we've cataloged a lot of it. I want to add one more thing to it. We talked recently about kids getting COVID, how many have been affected by it, those that have died, those that are going to experience long COVID. There's another sort of experience that kids are going to be having coming out of this pandemic. Assuming it ended today and no one else needlessly died, we didn't have another wave, you would still have more than 140,000 children that have lost a parent or caretaker as a result of it. Literally tens of thousands of additional orphans who thankfully survived, but have lost a parent, the person taking care of them, which is just devastating when you think about the long-term effect that that has on that individual, on the family, just devastating. And this is, by the way, from April 1st to June 30th. So let me amend what I said earlier. If it had ended the 30th, because a lot of people have died since the 30th. That includes, by the way, custodial grandparents, grandparent caregivers, those sorts of things. It's about 1 out of every 500 children have now experienced orphanhood related to COVID-19. So you can add this to the list of things that you're not supposed to have a problem with. The most important thing is your rights to get sick and get other people sick. And if you have to produce a whole bunch of orphans, that's just how the cookie crumbles, I guess, JR.
And then what? And then what after this?
And then nothing. Screw them. They don't care. These pro-lifers don't care.
Because then once these whatever aged kids, it ranges, I'm sure, end up in the system maybe sometimes or in abusive situations, and their lives are upended. And then they maybe look for their country to have something to do with helping them out because they're minors. They probably get a big old FU to their face. That's just what happens. And how dare you try to suction off the system, go get a job, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But in the meantime, everything we could have done to prevent maybe as many of these deaths as possible, to keep the family unit together, because that's the basis for America. Keep that family unit together that suddenly we don't care about. When someone dies, the person that you have, that's your family unit. Oh, whatever, bootstraps.
Yep.
Maybe because they never cared about the family union. Maybe because they only cared about certain people's family units and others. And they used the breakup of other people's family units to be another hammer and bludgeon on top of your head to tell you how much of a piece of garbage you actually are. This is how the system continually works. This is how the cycle works. And then we go, I have no idea why they're complaining. It's not like they didn't have any opportunity in this country. There's plenty of a lack of opportunity from these folks. And then again, you preventing this from happening will help them. But we don't care about helping them. We care about getting reelected and getting some level of political power. That's all the people that have decided to let this just happen this way care about.
Well, JR, there is actually some opportunity here. Now, 140,000 children have been given the opportunity to experience a substantially harder life, at least statistically. So let's talk about this. Apparently, losing a parent has been shown to increase a child's risk of sexual abuse, mental health problems, housing instability, and poverty. I mean, when it's literally a caregiver, like we understand why it's obviously not everybody, but why statistically it has that effect to a big community, 140,000 people. I grew up in Bridgeport, Connecticut. My vague memory is that Bridgeport, Connecticut had about 160,000 people. The idea that almost the entire population of the city I grew up in became orphans as a result of this is just insane. We should also point out that, as we know, the distribution of these deaths has not been even. Most recently, we've been focused on the fact that conservatives and people in conservative states are more likely to die. So that's true. But we also know that racially, especially early on, Black and brown individuals were far more likely to get COVID and thus early on to die from COVID. The poor individuals as well. So you're gonna see that too. So this is gonna interact with a lot of other inequities produced by the pandemic that we've already identified. So it's gonna be just even worse.
Yeah, and so those lists of things that happen more to children that end up in these situations: sexual abuse, mental health problems, housing instability, and poverty. Think about the programs that are put in place to probably help folks in these situations, and how certain folks and certain political officials in this country want to cut those and have been cutting those or haven't been funding them to a certain extent. Look at the fight that's happening over this human infrastructure bill with the reconciliation battle back and forth. That's why specifically if you ask them, which parts of this bill would you like to cut out? Because they may help kids with poverty and families in poverty, housing instabilities, and we complain about homelessness all the time. That's one of the reasons people are fighting with even locally in LA and also with the state. Oh, we have a homeless problem in the state. Why?
Yeah.
Why do we have a homeless problem in the state? What are the many reasons we have a homeless problem in the state? Are you willing to do something about it before there's more homeless people on the streets? No, they're not.
Yeah.
They're just not.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.